Alright. And we're back. Let's take the controller down. There we go. Okay, good. So the lamp I've got actually illuminates me pretty well enough for the face tracker to keep track of me, right? Yes, no? But anyway, we're back with some Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. And we're in the third day. And the case we're doing is Emma and Lana Skye. The chief prosecutor's been accused of murder, and we're gonna try and prove her innocence, say that she didn't do it. Okay, maybe the lamp's not enough. So then we'll just keep going this way then.
The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye.
Emma didn't come back. This is bad.
Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, well, I'm just a man same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the wind, hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor.
Howling wind? I've never heard Edward described that way before.
Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean?
The desperado soul's as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up.
Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. English, damn it, like my accent. Hello.
My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. Said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day. That ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a side street saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail.
I can't say I particularly care for your attitude.
I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. That's for sure.
He's not that good with machines, or with following orders.
Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor?
This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours.
Wow, very informal because of this guy. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security monitor. That room's so still, even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. You interred them? Videos and nothing that aren't useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape.
If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours.
Each time I'd erase the tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it's not going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado I know, that's rules get in his way. No desperados I know joined the police force.
So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime,
Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in that evidence room all day.
there was a rubber glove sticking in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that?
Sorry, partner, can't say I do. Haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? You used to be a detective, so you used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in my day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. Couldn't even tell you how a bike works. Quite incredible, sir.
The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence.
Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too.
At any rate, it doesn't seem like that this is relevant to the crime. You tell us what you were doing when the crime took place.
So he claims to have been at a bar down the street. What were you doing in a place like that? Really? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel Steak lunches can beat that parlor's Vongolo sepia pasta.
Do you mean to tell us you're abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles?
Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. Moving on.
That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson.
That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want to raise this year?" Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner, as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. Steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. Man, this dude does not make sense.
One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything.
Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Really? I'm gonna screenshot this and I'm gonna ask Arrow. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I better up the ante. So, what do I do here? First, let's look at everything. Neil Marshall, that's interesting. So he's supposed to keep an eye. He was supposed to make 3 rounds, but he doesn't do that. So he was off. Yeah, he was off like eating lunch, right? So then, how come your fingerprints are here then? Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left behind a very large trail. You left a very large trail behind at the scene, or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crew. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. Oh, natural my fingerprints being there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood.
Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene.
The blood was wiped away, however. A luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? Seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders.
I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprints. Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime.
Yeah, what were you doing? I wonder what is in that fucking flask he's got.
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint.
That's a very big coincidence, sir.
The murderer touched the locker with my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves?
Say you had nothing to do with it. That still doesn't make any sense.
The witness' explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt.
Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month?
Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now is a big heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker.
Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming, so he could still open it. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. So then, what about the bloody handprint?
Wasn't mine. It's no mystery. Please explain. My locker's covered my handprints, fingerprints, whatever. Just so happened.
Chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1.
On the contrary, one could argue the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1.
Get one thing straight, partner.
You ain't gonna get no reward for me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why?
Because they're unrelated? Just because you say so, idiot? No. Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. No, sir. What are you talking about now? One's got to do with breakfast while the other's a type of murder.
He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different.
I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. How do you know that?
I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports.
There was a bloodstain at the scene thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found in Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too.
So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint.
That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. Security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise.
This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall.
What do you mean, too bad it wasn't you?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Too bad it wasn't me in that video, huh, partner? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have.
But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots?
Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now.
Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. I almost read that as like... Ow. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Man, I forgot to get water. Oh no, not the fucking music, please! No, wait. That was just a fucking very bad series of misclicks.
Hold it! Objection! Objection!
Hmm. Right here, right?
Take that!
Bring our attention back to the security camera. Is it a mistake? I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. Days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video.
That locker with the white cloth sticking out, that was the witnesses, I believe.
Now then, let's rewind the video a bit.
Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What is the meaning of this, Officer Marshall?
When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away.
Order, order. Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man.
So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. Dude, do you not realize that it's your fingerprint and only your fingerprint can open it?
The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man?
This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker.
Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker, now prove it.
Well, shit, dude. pretty much, we're we're just gonna show you, man.
Take that!
A fingerprint sensor. We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got one word for you, partner. No. Order. Witness, explain yourself. If this joke is the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Ole, please answer the question.
What is he now, a bullfighter? That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here.
We can.
Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet, Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall.
If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer.
That's right. The only possible conclusion.
Where was Officer Marshall at the day of the crime?
Here.
Take that!
Officer Marshall was standing right here.
There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was.
Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I do believe the victim in this video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman.
Objection!
But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure.
Objection!
May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his ID card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it?
Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it.
The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card.
No, I get it.
If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall?
You got quite an imagination, partner. Got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it.
They're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I'm particularly careful on cooperative disposition. I can
can't say I care for your beer, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. So what can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would have been what Maya used to tell me. Or Mia. Try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place?
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall.
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime.
Yeah, he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
Part of the defense's argument. Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that the white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so the video is my only shot.
Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth.
Well, I can't read that fast, video game. I'm not waiting 20 seconds. Whoop. Here we go.
Take that!
Because if he didn't originally plan to open the locker, guess what? But he screwed up when he tried to take out Officer Meekins. He couldn't manage to take out a bumbling idiot. That's funny. For some reason, you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman and enter the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker.
Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago. If you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. All right. Seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID, dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Makins. Knocked him out. He managed to escape. He knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. Okay, so nobody died in the evidence room. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is that he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Yeah, that and the dude panics. So, like, you know, probably squirting like a bottle of ketchup, I guess.
Hold it!
When you say it, you mean... Do you have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years ago, 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It's going to completely end with the transferal that day. Or it was. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When the case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner, that case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That was my last chance. That's why I stole all this shit. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card. I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor of the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could have just... but he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. Yeah. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall.
Hold it!
You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only plan on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I don't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder demanding to be shown his ID.
I'll have to think a little more about his race this year. Where did Edgeworth get so much influence? Why does he get to dictate like how much the cops get paid? What are you talking about? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. Sorry it had to turn out that way. Me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
Hold it!
So you did your research beforehand.
Those who go into the desert on prayer don't live long, partner. I didn't think I'd make it out. I didn't think it'd make a difference, though. Security taps rest every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left.
However,
You bloodied your coat with in your struggle with Officer Meekins.
if someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time?
What else?
He was sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is that on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
Are you blind?
The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence?
So you stole the evidence from the locker?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence is already gone.
Mr. Edgeworth, what is that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner. Free country.
Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense.
Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. Can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution.
Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. Drama.
That case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. Involved serial murders, didn't it?
Don't tend to complain about how it turned out, but there's some that still bothers me. Something that went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is.
I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later.
Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. Better take another look at the case files. So who is Neil Marshall to Jake? Probably his dad, right?
Objection!
Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man?
Neil Marshall.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What? A prosecutor?
He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother. Aw. He was investigating the murders of Damon Gant and the deputy chief of police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them, and we were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. It was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more of my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me.
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 incident could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled.
Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happened by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky.
Objection!
But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial.
Objection!
Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries of the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There is no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I don't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Your Honor, wait! Emma, the defense has an objection, a scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found in Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured I examined it. No, but I figured I'd examined it. I examined it scientifically. I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. So, did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all?
Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark.
Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with the blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If I ever needed to concentrate, it's right now. What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? There could be something I'm missing.
Objection!
This handprint left at the scene of the crime completely shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at this floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there?
Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
Well, there's evidence here. There's gotta be something I can use. Question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans? How come nobody is, like, how come no one has mentioned the blue badger anywhere in there? Because they had to move it out. It was in there at the time of the crime.
Take that!
What about that piece of plywood?
The blue badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof.
Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
Please look at the floor plans at the crime scene. The blue badger's not here.
So?
So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was, dancing at the time of the crime. Well?
Well, what?
That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot of the locker.
What? So that means, just exactly what does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces are undeniably found in that locker.
Don't look at me, I didn't put there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in.
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice.
But how?
One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found in the locker.
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred.
When did the first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right. The blood mark on this locker proves this.
Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place. Only one piece of evidence that could show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place?
Wait, go back. Check this. And we see everybody, because who has this one? And one guy said that his ID was just all the same number because it was so hard to remember. So he only has one number. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card? Oh, the ID card record.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger into the evidence room at,
let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had nerve, boy.
Drop the act, witness. It does not take a lot to figure out it couldn't have been me.
Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from the Blumenthal test that that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer.
I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood.
Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 7777777.
Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of this card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777s.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 77s.
That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present.
What?
Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire about into such a person's identity.
Objection!
But that's ridiculous. Just how? Not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge. You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes. No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive.
Fine.
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number and it's not 77s. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident.
The SL9 incident. Yes, this fucking goddamn case that no one shuts the fuck up about.
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did.
Lana?
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't.
I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. Well, we did what we had to, in order to get him to get the verdict he deserved.
But Lana...
Even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No.
What the fuck is going on? Order, order, order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir that the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. To be continued.